gosh, we're live. Hooray for Hollywood. Da Hollywood. Where any office boy can, young man, oh yeah. Wow, oh yeah. Hooray for Hollywood. Oh, Hollywood. There's anybody called love. I love it. 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 I've walked the streets of Hollywood, looked at the footprints, ran up to Capitol Records and said, hey, you need a piano player? Ah! We'll have a barrel of fun. Roll out the barrel. We've got the blues on the run. Zing, boom, tararo. Ring out a song of good cheer. Now's the time to roll that barrel for the gangs. Oh, here, you know it. Hey, I'm Jay Skinner, and this is the pre-show of the Buyers and Sellers Show. Giving everybody a chance to get on. This is exciting. Kind of a big deal today. I got Joe Sabatino in the green room. He's a Hollywood movie star, man. I met him. I love him. He's like a brother these days, and I love him. He's going to really bless you. Wait till you hear about those cinema secrets of being and having executive presence. The barrel, wow, we'll have a barrel of fun in Hollywood. Roll out the barrel, wow. We've got those blues on the run. Zing, boom, tararo. Ring out a song of good cheer. Now's the time to roll that barrel for the gang. The gang's all here. And we're live. Hey, I'm Jay Skinner, and we're live on the Buyers and Sellers Show every Friday morning at 10:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and here we are. Thanks so much for coming. This is going to be awesome. I can't tell you how excited I am about what we're going to do today. This is a rare opportunity for you to enjoy something really cool that perhaps you always wished you could have the opportunity, and that is to visit and talk to a guy that's actually been on the big silver screen. And we're going to bring in right now my friend, Mr. Joe Sabatino.
Wow, wait a minute. You got to get the applause. And it was for you to break into, there's no business like show.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But make sure everybody tips the waiters and bartenders because we've got a show here today.
We do have a show today. And Joe, thank you so much for taking time to be with me. This is going to be fantastic. Joe, a lot of people know you when they see you already. Now, folks, I'm sure are looking and saying, I recognize that guy. He was kind of a movie star guy. And look, we've already got someone on board. One of our fans from California, Greg Sneed. He says, good morning, everyone. Happy Labor Day year weekend.
Okay, cool. Good morning,
Greg lives in LA. You guys should find each other.
Yes, exactly.
So I want people to get familiar with who you are.
Okay.
So what I want to do is I want to show them a little stuff. We're going to do this right online.
Oh, boy.
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
Who is this guy? So let's all just watch Joe in action. Then we're going to talk a little bit about your shows.
Not for nothing, I heard you were arrested.
I made bail.
Yeah.
Look, I'm looking for Freddie. You seen him?
It's funny, a lot of people are looking for that guy. A lot of cops especially. Didn't used to be a cop, Jake? I'm just kidding, man. I know you. We sang Piano Man together.
This guy.
I got you.
You got me. You got me.
Yes, I got. Yeah. Look, I can't tell you where Freddie is, but I can tell you his girl Bianca just called in to have Freddie's regular order delivered to her address.
Thank you so much. See ya.
Okay. Joe, what did we just see? What was that?
Oh, what did we just see? Movie magic. No, that was a show, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that I did with Andy, and what a nice guy. Just a tremendously giving actor. And what was so hilarious, which you really don't pick up in that scene, but before that scene, he's hysterical, and he had me crying so much that my makeup was running. So they were like, Andy, stop. And they had to do all my makeup over before we did that scene. So it was a lot of fun.
Oh, I love it. So here's another one. And I'm going to pop this in here and we'll take a look. Okay, good. Got to get the screen in. There we go. Do add. Oh, there we go. Fine. Good. So now this screen here, people know about IMDb, and this is your IMDb. And I'm over here. I got multiple screens going here, so that's what you're seeing. But look at this, everybody. Look at these past films and videos going way back to, look, Batman. Can you guys see that? Can you see those names? These are movies you were in, right?
Correct. Yeah. What's funny, Jay, as time rolls on, right? We don't really, when you do something, you take it for granted, obviously, because you've done it, and it's so humbling. But one person actually searched out all my credits, and when they told me, they said, Joe, do you know you've done just about 221 television shows and movies? And there's like 100 and some odd listed on IMDb. And I was like, wow, you just don't realize, over the years and the time, and, time just rolls on. So a lot of fun.
Yeah. And look, you're even on video games. Holy cow. How do you do that?
Yes. A lot of fun. That's a lot of fun.
I just never even thought about that, but that's something you do. You do like the voices on it and stuff like that?
Yeah. And what I do in business actually really connects with the acting and being a voice actor, because through our voice and through the emotions that we can share with our voice really communicates messages to whoever we're speaking to. So being a voice actor
absolutely
so translates to being a BDR and SDR, because now you're talking through a phone or on a video conference call like we are now. So there's that.
Yeah, look, Greg I just see Greg put up a comment here. Let's see if I can see this here. Oh, boom, click. He said, Joe sounds like a Brooklyn guy.
Hey, Greg, funny you say that. I'm from Long Island, actually. And when I first came out to California, I got stereotyped to playing these New York characters. And since I lost my accent, joking, but that's kind of stuck with me, and it served me actually quite well. So a lot of people and a lot of actors, when they come to California, they're like, oh, I've got to change what I do, who I am. But I actually look at it is you got to embrace your edge, and just, what I did was just lean into who I am. So whether it's in Hollywood or in corporate America, it's, if you can embrace who you are, then people see you for being authentic, and just lean into that. And when you do that, I think people really appreciate someone that's just, has got an open heart and is just, this is who I am.
Joe, we're going to do a little lightning round here of some pictures. And why don't you just tell us what we're looking at? Oh,
wow. My gosh. That's Ed Asner, very, very good friend of mine who has recently, he recently passed away. But I was actually over at Ed's house and I was interviewing him because we were talking about dramatic acting and comedic acting. And he said something to me on that day that just hit me right in the heart. And I never forgot it. And I take this into business as well. And he says, Joe, he said, do you know whenever you're playing a dramatic scene, remember this? And I said, what's that, Ed? And he said, there's always comedy in drama. So taking that into the corporate world, I work a lot in the InfoSec space and preparing executives to do presentations. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, I'm talking about such serious stuff. And I always say, just remember, we want to put a little humor in it to really educate, our audience, but actually educate them on who you are as a person. Because at the end of the day, who do you sell first? We always sell ourselves first, and then we're selling our products.
Okay, here's some more. Who's this?
Oh, gosh, Dean Cain. The Adventures of Lois and Clark. Great show. And at the time, this was a couple of years ago, and at the time, I got cast in a role where I was this bionic boxer, and I was there to kill Superman. So it was Dean as Superman and myself, and we were kind of at odds through the whole show. So Dean was a great guy. Oh, and here's the lovely Miss Terry Hatcher on Desperate Housewives. And I was starring as a police officer on the show. And she said to me right before this picture, she said, Joe, you know what's so actually sad about what's going on now? And I said, what? This is a beautiful day. We're shooting a show. And she says, look across the street. And I said, okay. And there were all these paparazzi, and they were probably about a block and a half away, but they had the long telephoto lenses. Mm-hmm. And she said, tomorrow, you and I are going to be in the Inquirer, and it's going to say, Terry Hatcher was arrested for doing something. And here we are just, working on a television show. And I was like, and it hit me, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I said, so you have to deal with this all the time? She goes, every morning, this was a hot show at the time. Every morning when I leave the house, a van of people follow me. So. Oh
my gosh, that is so cool. Here's another one.
Oh yeah, here's Frank Stallone. We the both of us starred on a show called Walker, Texas Ranger with Chuck Norris.
I remember him.
So Frank was this lounge singer, and I played one of the local gangsters in town that was kind of extorting Frank, and Chuck has to really set me and my boys straight. And this right here is a show called Providence, and that's on the back lot of Universal Studios. And it took place in the early 1900s, and we had a ball because it was just so cool to do this period piece. So that was a lot of fun. And lastly, this was from a movie that I did with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it was Batman and Robin, where Arnold, played Mr. Freeze, and I played his sidekick, Frosty. And that was right before Mr. Freeze was going to freeze me.
Well, so let's see. We got some people commenting. Greg's having a blast today. He said he lived in Freeport and Baldwin.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. I went fishing. I would go fishing in Freeport.
And many on Long Island came out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow,
Greg's also been on my show. He's a good guy.
That's great. Greg, real pleasure meeting you.
So as we talk about this stuff, this is what we brought you on. Everybody that is looking at the promotional stuff, I want to encourage everyone to type in comments and ask questions. But sure. Joe's Cinema Secrets for Public Speaking, Your Executive Presence. Talk about that. What's that about? Joe, help me out. What can you help our people learn?
Absolutely. So I work with corporate executives, and one of the big things is, how do actors show so powerfully on screen? When, I was doing a show actually last week, and I had to do a lot of screaming actually in it. and my throat is still a little sore, so excuse me. So everyone always says, Joe, how do actors show so good on screen? And I always say, actors understand this medium right here. For instance, you'll notice that when I'm talking on screen, I'm not looking at the monitor. I want to make eye contact with people. So just like when we meet someone in person, the first thing that we normally would do is make eye contact with them. Why? Because our eyes are the window to our soul. And when we make eye contact, it shows confidence. The next thing that we generally do when we meet someone is we'll smile. Why do we smile? Well, we smile simply because it shows that, hey, we're a positive person, and we know most people want to deal with positive people. It's a fact. We just know that. And excuse me. And the third thing that we generally do when we meet someone pre-COVID, and now we're starting to get back to it, is we'll reach out and shake someone's hand. But the big question is, how do we do that when we're on a digital conference call? Well, here's the secret. You see, actors understand that the screen is broken into thirds. You have the upper third, the middle third, and the lower third. And we use the screen to our advantage, just like I'm doing here today. Well, how do I use the screen, and how do I use these thirds to my advantage? Well, simply when I want to make a point and I want someone to think about what it is I'm about to say or saying, well, you'll see I use these thirds because when I'm normally talking, I'm in the lower third. If I really want to lay in on something and make it powerful, I'll go into the middle third or the upper third, because just as a performer knows and understands, they have to play levels of their performance. Because if you go and watch a singer or a comedian, and we call it if it's a one color or one tone performance, what generally happens? Well, you fall asleep. So the actor, the performer knows, we just got to keep that variety going. So there's spice to it. So you're really switching gears and just becoming more alive. And if you want a great example of this, I want you to look at my buddy Jay Skinner and watch how he talks. And he's up, he's down, he's in, he's out, he's playing the piano, he's all over. But what does it do? He's animating himself and he's making himself interesting.
Thank you. That's great. And I appreciate your comments and that I'm doing well. People need to think about these details. Now, what's the new normal? What's going on? What's that all about?
Well, everyone, and that was the biggest buzzword, right? Everybody's like, we're in the new normal. We're in the new normal. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, really, at the end of the day, I would look at that, and in business, I would say we're in this new normal, but no one's doing anything new. And everybody would say to me, Joe, what are you talking about? Well, like I was just discussing, if I'm going to meet you in person, aren't you going to look at me? Mm-hmm. You're gonna make eye contact with me, right?
Yes.
Of course you are. That's what we all do. But we're in this new normal, but no one's doing anything new, because now when we get on this digital conference call, everybody does this. Hey, Jay, how are you? Oh, yeah, it's great. Now, let me ask you this. If I meet you in person and I'm talking to you, Jay, mm-hmm. and I'm talking to you in person, hey, Jay, how are you? And I never look at you, you're going to think,
that's a little weird.
Yeah, that's kind of a little weird. There's something going on with Joe that we don't know about. So it doesn't matter if we have one person or 100 people on a digital conference call. Every executive should know, I have to make eye contact. I have to connect.
You got to look at that camera right there.
Exactly.
Right there.
You got it.
Look at that thing.
You got to look at that.
I have an arrow pointed to it in yellow to help me remember.
And Jay, tell me, how many executives do you speak to that aren't even aware of that? And then here's something else they're not aware of. They're not aware of, you know what? If I smile, it's going to change the whole tone, first, personally, of my voice, of my energy, of my being. But here's what it's also going to do. It's going to change the attitude, the energy of the person that you're speaking to. Because at the end of the day, this is what every actor knows. When we talk about cinema secrets, every actor knows if I'm giving a performance and my energy level is here, my audience will be here. If my energy level is here, my audience will be here. My energy level is here, my audience will be here. Obviously, there's always exceptions to the rule, but we just know that. So if we're in business and we're talking, and if we come, up here and my prospect is here, well, we have to kind of be self-aware and go, you know what? I got to come down. Let me see if I can bring this person up with me. And once we understand and aware of this, then we go into and where I coach on neurolinguistic programming and how to bring people along with you. But it's just really being self-aware. And that attitude really just takes me seamlessly into what are the 5 core values of public speaking. And the first one really is clarity. Clarity is simply, you just want to communicate clearly and concisely. You don't want it to be, when you're speaking, you don't want to confuse your audience. You want to keep everything clear, and we call it road mapping. So when you start a presentation, probably one of the first things you want to do is road map your whole presentation. Why do you want to do this? Because our brains, we really work in threes, and when we hear something 3 times, it kind of sticks. So when you first start your presentation, you want to roadmap it with clarity. You want to say, hey, I'm going to talk about, let's say if I'm making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I'm going to talk about the bread I'm going to use. I'm going to talk about the jelly that I love, and I'm going to talk about the peanut butter for how good it is for you and the protein and everything like that. So I lay that out in the beginning. Then during my presentation, I talk about it. And at the end, I recap everything. So everybody heard it 3 times. And it's a home run. And then the second core value is confidence. And what is confidence really about? It's about a person's belief in themselves. Now, how do you really establish your confidence? Well, you establish your confidence, and every actor establishes their confidence by it's their preparation. And there's a saying amongst actors, in the show business community, and it goes a little like this, and I think this will hit home for a lot of people. Actors don't rehearse to get it right. Actors rehearse so they can't get it wrong. It's powerful.
That is extremely powerful.
Yeah, because if you walk on stage or in front of a camera and I don't care what happens, doesn't matter. You walk up there with swag. And then that takes us to, well, how do we connect to our audience? How do I connect with 5,000 people on a stage? Or how do I connect with 200 people on a conference call? And Jay actually alluded to it, and when we were discussing, it's eye contact. So when I'm speaking on a conference call, whether it's one person or 100 people, I'm right into that camera, because I know that everyone is reading this, where if there's one person, I'm talking to them directly. If there's 25 people, I'm talking to 25 people directly. But okay, so now we're on a stage. How can you make eye contact with, an audience of 500 people? Very simply. Okay. Because when you're speaking, that speaker on stage, you want to, when you're speaking, look at people when you're making your points. And then there's a whole process to this. And it's neurolinguistic programming, where you're going to identify, as a speaker, we have what are called audience allies. And these audience allies are people that have showed up to your presentation and they have no idea, but they're there to help you. And you're going, wait a minute, Joe, that's kind of crazy. How are they there to help me? Here's how they're there to help you. When you say, you know what? Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are fantastic. They're great for you with the whole wheat, the peanut butter. And then you see that person in the audience doing what Jay is doing right now, actively listening and going, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I really dig this.
Yeah.
Now what you're going to do is you're going to start spotting these audience allies. So when you're making your points, you're going to talk to that person. Then you're going to shift and talk to the person next to him and the person next to them. And here's the thing, and this is what performers know. Corporate doesn't know. We live in a Me Too society, but I don't mean Me Too like, in the Wall Street debacle that was going on. I mean Me Too like if someone is agreeing and they say, I like that.
Me too.
The next person says, yeah, me too. And the next person, yeah, me too. And that's how you grow your audience without your audience even knowing what you're doing. Pretty simple. And then from there, it just takes us right into credibility. How do we establish our credibility? Oh my gosh. Well, that's really a great thing, because everybody, when they're public speaking, when they come on and do a digital conference call, or when they come on a stage and let's say there's 2,500 people in the audience, everybody, first of all, is like, it's human nature. I hope they like me. I hope I say everything correct. I hope. You know what? We've got to get rid of that attitude. And we literally have to say, sadly, I don't care if they like me. I don't. Because with me thinking that, it frees me up. It frees me up to be who I am, number one. Number two, with credibility, is you want to understand your audience so that you can relate to them, so that when you are dropping facts, figures, or when you know your audience, you want to deliver a personal story that people can identify and can relate. And when you start doing facts, figures, personal story, now your credibility, you're a whole different, speaker up there, because you're taking all of this in. And as you speak, like credibility, coming up to a mic, every comedian does this. And when you watch any stand-up, I want you to notice this. Here's a technique every stand-up uses. They come out on stage. Do they grab the mic and they come out on stage? Do they grab the mic and start talking? No way. They come out on stage, whether Sebastian Maniscalco, Dave Chappelle, I don't care who it is. They come out on stage and they look at their audience. And what they're really doing is they come out, they're in that character, whatever that persona is. They come out in that. And what they're doing is they're now starting to sync up with their audience. But that 2, 3, 4 seconds of them not talking is now, it's establishing, their credibility of who they are, right? So it's all these subtleties that the performer starts doing. And now here's the beauty of it. This seamlessly transfers to the executive. And once the executive starts knowing that, it's a game changer whenever they're speaking. And then that just takes us right into charisma.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you start doing that now. Charisma. There you go. No, but when you really think about it, that establishes what's that delivery style, right? For instance, like Jay, I love using you as the example, because you're so super charismatic the way you start off the show. Who starts off the show playing their piano and doing their thing and singing and everything? That's your charisma. That's your style. That's who you are. So without you even going into the show, what are you really saying? Well, you developed your style. People know you're going to be, outgoing, entertaining. So you're this charismatic fella that's going to be doing this podcast, this webinar, whatever the case. So what we want to do with charisma, it's truly dialing into and letting your authentic self shine. And everything is all about being authentic, because people have what we call the automatic brain. Just like you're watching this right now, you're looking, oh, look at Joe and look at Jay, and Jay's got this background, Joe's got this backdrop. Jay's wearing this checkered shirt. Joe's wearing this solid shirt. And our automatic brain is firing off all of these, different ideas and constantly judging us. But it's, we've established this charisma, this positive energy that now everybody is absorbing and going, wow, I kind of dig that. I kind of like this person. So it's really owning who you are and being authentic.
Joe, this is great 5 points. I just want to remind everyone: clarity, confidence, connection, credibility, and charisma. Mm-hmm. And then we go to another thing that's big deal. And this is we're winding things down here on this teaching today, but we've got a couple more things we want to talk about. Self-awareness and audience psychology. What's that about?
So great segue. So important, because everything we're talking about, it really comes down to, if you're an executive and you're presenting on stage or on a digital conference call, it really comes down to two things: self-awareness and audience psychology. And that's the center of every performer, every actor, every comedian, is that self-awareness and that audience psychology. And self-awareness really is dialing into what are you putting out to the audience? How are you affecting your audience? And I see this time and time again with executives that I coach, that they'll get up there and they'll talk and they're so disconnected to who they are. And the mere fact that when they speak and they get through their presentation, just because they got through the presentation, many of them think, wow, I did great. And if an actor went out there or a comedian went out there and they just got through their bit, their act, and they thought, wow, I did great, it doesn't work like that. Especially when we're on television. Think about it. When you're home, and as a television producer, I know within that first 10, 15, 20 seconds of my show, metaphorically, we say in the writer's room, I got to punch the audience in the face, because I've got to get your attention, or else what do? Well, there's so many channels now. You just go click, 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 and you're gone. So we have to be so self-aware and understand, what is it and how do I want to affect my audience? And you really have to think about that and go, okay, if I was listening to someone, how do I want to affect them? And this is something where you want to think about, how do I want to affect them with my physicality? How do I want to affect them emotionally? Because we all know, in the old tagline, people don't remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel. And it's so true, because you can watch any TV show or anything, like The Sopranos, Tony Soprano. You might not know everything he said, but you can say, wow, I know how that guy makes me feel. Yeah. Or Dave Chappelle, or Sebastian Maniscalco. You might not know their bits, but wow, they make you laugh. They're funny. So it's being self-aware and then understanding audience psychology is, we all know people have the automatic brain and are constantly making decisions. So you want to be in tune with what people are doing. And here, I'm just looking at this, and how do we really know if we're killing it on stage? This is the best, because when we go to conferences, I think the one thing that we hear of every conference or any conference we go to is, the conference was great, but the speakers, not so much. Yeah. Okay. Well, the reason why we hear that is because the speakers really aren't self-aware of what they're actually doing. And no one has ever wowed an audience by just dropping facts and figures. Oh my gosh, stick a fork in my eye. I mean, terrible, right? So how do you know if you're a speaker and you're just killing it? How do you know? Do you know by, your subordinate worker coming up to you and saying, Jay, you were the best. You were the best. No, you don't know that. I'm going to give you here are some guidelines that actors, comedians, we look at and we go, okay, let me go through my checklist to see if I really wowed him or killed him. First thing is, do you get an extraordinary applause when you're done? I mean, you've heard everyone else, you've heard them, clap for everyone else. Do you get an extra loud applause? Number one.
Or they're standing up and screaming or whatever.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Number two, do you get a standing ovation?
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe yes, maybe no. Number three.
Always like a standing O, man. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, no. Number three, very, very important. When you're done speaking, does someone who maybe doesn't work for you from the audience come up to you and say, Jay, I love what you said when you said da-da-dun, 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 da-da-dun. That is, you killed it. Why? Because you affected someone so much that after they heard you speak, they came up to you and they repeated exactly what you said. Oh my gosh, you resonated. Okay. Did a person from the audience, in addition to that, did someone come up to you and say, Jay, your delivery style, the way you play the piano, you sing the song, you have so much fun. How do you do it, man? That's so great. So now that's part of your charisma. That's part of your confidence. Now they're complimenting you on that. That's 4. Number 5, here it is. Are you ready?
I think.
Your presentation, does the conference organizer or does someone in the audience come up to you and say, hey, Jay, you did such a great job. Why don't you come back in 6 months and speak? Or does someone else come over to you and say, hey, Jay, you were so great.
Here's my card.
There you go. Right, exactly. That's what you do. And then, hey, Jay, you were so great. We have an organization that does this, this, and this. Would you mind? Could we get you to speak there? Now you know you're really delivering. Because, so many executives just are so blind to this that, like I said before, just because they got through the presentation, they think, wow, it was great. And their subordinate worker said, oh my gosh, you were great. You were great. So I think, you have to be real and really look at yourself and look at yourself in the mirror and really, really analyze what it is and how you've done it. Wow.
I want to point everybody, because you have whet the appetites of so many people in this short time. And I want people to know that they can get more of these cinematic secrets and executive presence teaching from you on your website. I'm going to show them something here that it's like, I love your website. And it's so easy because people can go to it. And let's see, it just looks like this. Here we go. Add to stream, pick that. There we go. It's coming. It's coming slowly but surely. Here we go.
No, it's there.
There we go. Can you see it now?
Oh, I saw it the whole time.
There we go. So anyway, when people go to joesabatino.com, they get to do this.
Hey, Jay. One of the things.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. One of the things that I think executives fail to realize is, everybody's so focused on facts, figures, and how we work at joesabatino.com. It's how do you take your product, your company message, and you have to work it into a story. And everybody talks about story. Oh, you got to tell a story. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy. But 30 years as an actor, 20 years as an television executive producer and screenwriter, it's more of, you can take anything. I don't care what it is, corporate messaging, whatever. You can put it into an entertaining story that will grab your audience. It's just, the four most powerful words when we were little kids, what were they? You know what they were? Once upon a time. So the powerful words now when we're presenting in front of an audience is, I want to share this story with you. Wow, everybody's like, they can share a story. And then when you put it in and everybody says, well, yeah, but it's business and it's just about my product or whatever. I'm telling you right now, and I make this promise to everyone, it doesn't matter what your business is. We can create an entertaining, a compelling, and exciting story of how you got into your business, what you're doing, what do you offer, and what is it that you're giving your prospects or your customers, because everything is story.
We've got a bunch of people jumping on here. I want to say Paul McCoy, who is a business consultant and active guy, really smart guy, says, thanks, Joe and Jay. Great information, awareness, and how to deliver. Paul. Here's another one. How about Ben Gay III? Do you happen to know Ben Gay III?
I do not.
He is one of the last guys that was actually mentored and worked with Napoleon Hill.
No, Ben. Oh my gosh. All of us are doing everything that Napoleon Hill was preaching. Oh my gosh. I am honored. I am honored. What a pleasure. Oh, great.
Now here's Chris Stemple. And he's involved with, I'm the plasticpalletguy.com, and he's part of the family that owns the manufacturing company that makes my pallets. He says, everybody loves this story. Chris, thanks for showing up.
Sure.
That's integrity. They named it integrity, rotational molding, and they do have integrity big time. Mm-hmm. And then here's Chris Harris, one of the smartest guys on earth. He's a computer geeky kind of guy, engineer that figures out incredible, cool things. And he's really not that geeky. We've had our fun out there. He does it all. He's like both sides of his brain. He's creative. He's analytical. He's fun. And Chris Harris, he says, this is the best show and message yet. Thanks, guys.
Oh, Chris, thank you.
And let's see, and Greg was jumping in there. Oh, he says, when they don't like you when nobody is on their phones.
Okay, so then the question, Greg, is you're a speaker. Let's just say, no one's perfect. We're not machines, we're humans, and everyone's on their phone. How do you stop the people from being on their phone?
How?
You're at a live event, right? Magic. Here it is. This is how you stop it. Someone's on their phone, da-da-da-da. If I'm on a live event and I'm on that stage, Joe Sabatino will get off of that stage, go into that audience, and if someone's on their phone, I'll stand right next to them and give my presentation. I've done it before. I give my presentation right from there. And yeah, what do you think? Da-da-da. Hey, what's your name? Da-da-da. And then everybody gets the message, and you see everybody do this with their phones.
That's great.
No, but here's the thing, and I learned this. I started early on in my career. I started as a stand-up comic, and one of the stand-ups, I'll never forget them telling me, they saw me. I was, back in the green room, and they were like, Joe, you're going to be great. You're going to be great. And I was like, yeah. And I'll never forget this. He looked at me. He says, I just want to give you one bit of advice. And I said, what's that? And he looked at me and he says, when you get on that stage, he says, I don't care what happens, but I want you to go out after your audience. I was like, go out after my audience? He said, yeah, I want you to go out and go right to the edge of that stage and really grab your audience, metaphorically. And I was like, okay. And I remember doing that, and I could feel the audience and I could feel their reaction, so that when people are on their phone, here's the thing, you'll become so memorable because everyone who's presenting is going to stand behind a podium. If there's a podium there and you could take that mic off it, I say don't ever stand behind a podium. Why shut down all your body language? And then, like I said, if someone's on their phone, I'll jump off that stage and I'll go out in the audience. Here's the beauty of what you just did. Oh my gosh, it's scary, right? Oh my gosh, no one ever stands by the podium or away from the podium, Could you imagine if you're in a room with 100 people and there's the mic and everything and everybody stands behind it? And let's say you can't take the mic off of the podium, right? Okay, what do? I'll walk to the edge of the stage and say, can everyone hear me? Does everyone hear me? In the back row, do you hear me? And everybody's going to nod yes. Here's what I just did. I just changed the energy from every other speaker. Now they're going to remember me because that's the guy that didn't use the microphone. That's the guy that walked to the edge of the stage. That's the guy that jumped off the stage. So we have to have the courage as a presenter to be courageous. And when we have that courage to be courageous, that's when you stand out. That's when you resonate. And that's when you connect.
Look at this. Sue Way with Magic Promotions says, this is awesome. Thank you, Jay and Joe, for this amazing event. Yes, it's magic. I love it. Sue, thanks for showing up. She's huge in her own right. And I'm so thankful that you've blessed us with your comments here, Sue.
Oh, yeah. I echo that. Thank you, Sue.
So, Joe, not many people get an extra 15 or 20 minutes out of me, but you've done it because this has been so valuable and so interesting. And I want people to be able to enjoy it. Do you have any final, just last words for us before you head back to the green room and we wrap?
Sure. I think when we're presenting on a digital conference call or when we're presenting on stage, obviously, we want to take our message and we want to create a story. But like I was just sharing, we want to affect our audience. We just don't want to get up there and speak. So what actors do, and this is one thing that I share with every executive. If you've ever spoken, whether it's a digital conference call or on stage, or seen people do this, you'll notice that, wow, you see the executive and they'll be like a minute into it, and then they catch up to themselves, and or the executive will say, it took me a couple minutes to get revved up. But if you notice, whenever an actor is going to do an impromptu speech, or the actor is ready to go in front of the camera or go on stage, we don't have that luxury to take a minute or 2 minutes to get warmed up and speak. So how does the actor actually do it? How does the comedian actually do it? How does that professional performer, when they walk out on stage or in front of the camera, how come they're there all the time? Because what we're doing is different from the executive. The executive's hoping everything does good. The actor is, when it comes to executive presence, actors, comedians, we're masters of executive presence, because executive presence to us is character thoughts. It's our character. So pay attention to this, because this is so powerful and it'll change how you deliver any presentation. So if you're a company, I always ask everybody, what's your brand? Well, we're innovative, we're fun, we're exciting, we're trailblazing. Okay, that's probably part of their brand. Well, if that's the case, and you're all of those things, well, I'm going to tell you right now, 2 minutes before you go on stage, you want to get yourself emotionally connected to that. So think about this. So now, if I get those thoughts in my head, innovative, happy, fun, everything like that, well, I'm coming on stage, I'm wearing one of these, right? I'm wearing one of these. I'm coming out. I'm exciting. I'm trailblazing. So I know that I have to go and grab my audience. I don't doubt myself. I have the courage to be courageous. I'm going to be truly authentic. So I'm psyching myself up to that. And I'm going to let you in on another little secret. Before I do any performance, even with Jay here, while Jay is playing his piano, this is 100% full transparency. While Jay is playing his piano, what am I doing? I go into my normal conditioning. I go, okay, this is who we are, happy, fun, everything like that. And I get it all together. And then when I come on, it's like, hey, Jay, I thought you were going to break out into, there's no business like show.
Oh, man, that'll be the next time.
Okay, so the message here to everyone is that 1 to 2 minutes, you don't speak to anyone. You just want to dial into, don't even worry about your presentation because all that homework should be done. Now it's just about what's the emotional message here and here, because remember this, and this is the nugget. What you feel in your heart, that emotion, no matter what you say to your audience, if you have that feeling in your heart, it will always resonate with your audience. That's why the actor that you watch on television or, in a play, you're like, oh my gosh, they're so good. How do they get all those lines down? It's not about the lines. It's never about the lines. It's not about what you're saying in your presentation. It's about how you feel about your presentation. And if that feeling is true and honest, then no matter what you say, it's true and honest.
Joe, that is fantastic. What you feel inside, then the audience is going to feel it as well. I love it. Resonate. Joe, thank you very much for sharing. Just a reminder of everybody, go to his website. You can get a free course beginning and watch that. At the same time, you can sign up for additional courses, and Joe's an available guy. How would you like to be trained by someone like him? It'll certainly set you apart from the rest of the speakers and the rest of the people that have to make presentations. Joe, if you don't mind, head back to the green room, and then I'll be back there in a minute after we wrap this up, and maybe we can catch up, but don't eat all the green melon and strawberries. That's my favorite, and I'd like to share some of those.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, adios. Thanks for coming. Talk to you later. And everybody, you've been on the Buyers and Sellers Show. What a great group of people from a lot of places all around the country. Always here every Friday. Of course, if you want to get in touch with me, there's the information. I'm open. My website is thejayskinner.com, THEJAY Skinner.com. And I want you to have a wonderful day. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next week. See you next week. Thanks for coming.